Okay, so back at this again. We're gonna start working on some letter forms now. I just realized after I made the last video that I went ahead and I created a naughty word here, but I really didn't because this is two A's, so this would say ah, and then there would be a space here, and then we go s. So it doesn't say ass, it says ah. All right, so yeah, I'm reaching for that one, but still, no, did not mean to do that, even if you think I did. Let's think about a word, right? I'm gonna go with a word that shows all different kinds of letter forms. I'm gonna do two words actually. I'm gonna do an easy one and I'm gonna do a harder one. So I'm gonna start out with baselines and cap heights for both. Okay. All right. So the first word I'm going to create is a real simple word. It's the word milk. And so what I want to do when I create a word, and when I do this in real life, is I tend to, you remember I said when I was drawing the letter E before, I create like a rectangle in my mind kind of, and I look at the E as a rectangle. Well, I tend to do that for a lot of letter forms. So I'll go ahead and I'll draw out the rectangles here. And I tend to create them all approximately the same size. Now I'd like to point out I am not using the ruler, okay? I'm doing this freehand. And I'm doing this freehand just because I don't want you to get, I don't want you to use a ruler like a crutch, okay? So I go ahead and there are 4 letters in milk, right? And let's kind of talk about those letters for a second here. So the M is a wide letter. We already took a look at that, right? The I is a thin letter. There's not a lot going on there. And when you create a sans serif I, it literally looks just like that. It doesn't have the vertical crossbars on the top and the bottom of the letter, right? Because those are serifs in many ways. So we're not adding those to the edges of a letter like an I, just like we wouldn't put them on the bottom of an H, right? Or the top of the vertical bar in the H. So we won't do that to an I. An L is kind of average, and a K is kind of average, but we know that an M isn't, right? So anyway, I'll draw it out like this, these 4 boxes, you know, going here. And then what I'll do is, I know the M's a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to just extend that box a little bit larger. Now, could I have fit the M in that other box? Totally, I 100% could have. But I know that it would look kind of funky, right? And how do I know that? Because I've done this for a while. And I know that that's kind of like a cop-out kind of answer, but it's the truth. I have done this for a while. And I just know that I need a bigger visual space for that M, and I can steal it from the space that I'm going to use for this I. And then the L and the K, I'm going to have about the same, right? So the M, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work right inside this box, and I'm going to create a line, a vertical line going up, and I'm going to create another vertical line here going up. I'm going right to the edge of this boundary that I've created for myself. I do this with some letters, and I don't for others. Like for example, the I is going to fall on the inside, versus the M goes right to the boundary edge, right? Now, midpoint, right? Right about here is the midpoint. Again, I could use this if I want to. I do not want to use this like a crutch, all right? Because I am a designer, I'm a graphic artist, and it's okay sometimes if I'm a little off, especially in hand lettered type. It's quite all right. But I am going to switch pencils because that one that I've been using kind of got a little not so sharp anymore. So I'm going to go now find that center point that I created right about here. Right about here. And there we go, okay? Now, the I, again, really simple. Just a stroke. Just a vertical stroke. The L, okay? The L and the K. Well, if I treated them like rectangles, then they would touch. But we can tell here that I need some space in between there, just like I gave myself some space between the M and the I. So I'm going to start my L right here on this edge, right? And think of the L like the E. I'm going to go over about 80%, right? Remember the E, how I stopped myself before I got all the way to the edge? I'm doing the same thing with my L. Will I do that in every circumstance? Maybe, maybe not though. I tend to, with L's, depends on what they're doing, right? If it's an L and if it's like the word spill and it's at the end, actually no, I did it backwards, that would be two L's. But if it's, you know, something that has the L at the end of it on its own, I might make the L all the way 100% wide. If it's like spill, I definitely won't. I'll definitely do like 80% of that rectangle that I make. But anyway, I'll go ahead and I will create my K now. So the K is going to go here. I want to find about the midpoint. Yeah, that seems pretty good. I'll create my arm. And then I want my leg to go about, I don't know, a third of the way up that arm and come right down here. I purposely want the arm to extend past the leg. See that? So I'm doing that on purpose. And there, I have the word milk, okay? And now I'm going to go over my letter forms again. And when you're hand lettering, you can go over things again and again and again and again and really kind of build them up, right? That's one way in which you can go ahead and do stuff, right? Just like this. Go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth over your letter forms. That's totally something that you can do. The other thing that you can do is you can get a pen or a marker, right? You can get a nice thin Sharpie, that could work, right? The other thing that you can do is you can get what we call micron pens. Awesome pens, okay? Especially when you're dealing with hand lettering, right? So I make it nice and dark because now I'm going to take my eraser, my kneaded eraser, and I'm going to start cleaning up around it. And I will erase some of the, you know, darker parts that I just made. That's going to happen for sure. Okay? I made a little too bit of a darkness in my baseline and my cap height. That's just, I really wanted to see them. Okay? But let's go ahead, clean this up a little bit further. Okay? Now, I'm just making him a little darker again, just because I kind of screwed it up. You see that right there? That doesn't seem like a big deal. It totally is. You want to clean those sorts of little things up, because if you don't, you're going to run into some issues later on when we get into what we call digitizing our type. And that's something we're going to look at in a future video. So you want to really, you know, be aware of those little kind of like weird hanger-on things you want to clean up. See how this part of my M kind of goes past my cap height too? I want to work on that. I want to clean that up too. Okay? So then that way it's consistent with the other one. And there I go. I've got the word milk. It's probably the longest I've taken to draw the word milk before. But you know what? I've got it. Alright, second word. It's going to be a little harder. Shadow. I had a dog named Shadow once. She was awesome. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do that same thing. I want kind of thinner letter forms here though. I know that I do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 6 rectangles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay? Purposely making it wider. Why? Because it's a W, right? Alright, so let's go ahead and start. Now, just because I'm here, right? Think about the letter forms here, right? The H. The H really needs to kind of live in the rectangle. The S can kind of probably go here instead. I picked shadow, not because I was thinking of my old dog, but because it's a nice combination of your traditionally angled letters with your horizontal and your vertical bars, your diagonals, but also it's got curves, right? The letter D is in here. Oh no, an O. Remember, O's have to be rounded. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to compensate for that a little bit. I wasn't thinking about that when I left this out. So I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, I'm going to purposely go past where I said I was going to go to. That means I'm going to push this one further out too. But it's going to pay off at the end. Shadow. Alright, now, I'm going to make these a lot thicker. Now, it'd be really cool if I went ahead and made these like thick letters now, right? I can't. I've boxed myself into a hole. And what do I mean by that? Well, I've gone ahead and I've made some thin letters, and they basically live inside those rectangles that I created, right? And therefore, what I cannot do is I can't add thickness to them. Because if I do that, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to run into each other, okay? I can't add 1/4 of an inch to each side of that H here and here, or else I'm going to start bumping into the S and bumping into the A. So I just can't do that. So it's important for you to understand that, because if you don't, you won't plan things out correctly. And there is no undo here. I wish there was undo in life so many times, to be completely honest with you. And the time that it really comes up the most is when I'm doing hand lettering. Because again, you got to understand that I've been working in graphic design for, I don't know, 20-something years at this point. And so undo is a regular part of my life. And when I go ahead and I do something that I can't undo, oh man, that's frustrating. But that is life, you know? And the thing is that if you don't plan effectively here, it just can bite you. So you got to be really, really, really careful. And again, I'm going over these with a pencil again, making them darker on purpose. because eventually what I'm going to do with these probably is scan them into a computer and then do some stuff with them. Now, real quick before we're done here, I'd like to point out just some things that I did probably right and some things that I did wrong. So I established some spacing here between my S and my H, and I continued that with my H and my A, although my A is pretty close to my H, but still I've established that spacing and I'm holding it here with the S and the H and the A and then the D and then the O, and then wow, I gave myself all this space here. So you see that right here? And I went ahead and I like really need to kern that thing in there. The problem is that this is not a computer, so I can't do that unless I redraw that W. So those are things you need to be aware of. The other thing is, the more I look at this, the more I realize that my crossbar is actually going at an angle. So even though I've gone ahead and I've gone over this a bunch, I'm going to erase that. And I'm going to make sure that I bring it over straight. It's still at a slight angle, but not as bad as it was before. Now, that slight angle and that kerning right there, those things, I can fix those digitally at a later date, okay? Where I couldn't fix digitally though is if I was doing this with paint marker or if I was doing this with chalk, I would have to start over. So those are things that you do need to be aware of. Again, it's all thinking, right? It's all planning and thinking about how this plan will be executed and doing it beforehand. So what I want you to do is I want you to practice. Go ahead and create 3 words with a minimum of 5 letters each. And if you can't really think of a word, that's okay. I would just recommend you to go to Google and go to a place like random word generator. Just go ahead and write that in Google, right? So here, random word generator pops right up, and I use the second link in Google, which is literally called randomwordgenerator.com. And here we go. I'll just type in 3 words, and I can say word length, and I can say equals, and I can put 5 in there for 5 letters or more. And anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and hit create random words, and it gives me 3 words here. It gave me deal, smash, and chest. I'll say greater than 4 for number of letters. And now principal, information, cinema, pigeon, charge, philosophy, consolidate, retailer, photography, referee, drawer, future. So go ahead and just do that. If you can't come up with words on your own, just randomly generate them. In fact, that way you won't find yourself doing easy words, right? Milk is an easy word. Shadow's not as easy of a word, right? But milk is a super, super easy word compared to shadow, right? Because it's all, there's curves and stuff here. So I would recommend doing that, and take your time and enjoy it. Thank you.